1069 Boom.
In case you didn't know, it's a Friday morning and it's Boom Chat Friday morning. Just saying, in case you didn't know. We got almost 10 minutes after 7 o'clock. Before we get going this morning, there's a important notice from media release from Caribbean Airlines. Says, for immediate release, Caribbean Airlines statement. Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago, March 12th. This came out last night, 2020. Caribbean Airlines has been advised that a passenger who traveled on March 7, 2020 on BW 521 from JFK International Airport, New York to Piarco International Airport, Trinidad in transit on the same day to BW 526 from Piarco International to Trinidad International Airport. Guyana subsequently tested positive for COVID-19 at a public health facility in Guyana. Caribbean Airlines assure all stakeholders that the safety, security, and good health of its customers and employees is its highest priority, and when the information on the passenger was received, immediate action was taken. In accordance with established protocol, the public health authorities have advised that, as a precaution, the 13 crew members associated with the flight be placed on self-quarantine for a period of 14 days. This was done, and the employees will be assessed and monitored by the public health authorities in keeping with the directive from the Ministry of Health. The public health authorities are also contacting all persons who may possibly have been affected. The company's aircraft are cleaned daily at all posts in keeping with industry standards. Further, in this instance, additional sanitary processes were used, as outlined by the authorities. The airline remains in close contact with the public health authorities, and its operation team has activated plans for any impact on its flight. Caribbean Airlines assure all stakeholders that it continues to actively monitor and respond to the evolving COVID-19 issue to ensure the safety and good health of its customers and employees. Yeah. That's from Caribbean Airlines. Okay. Also for immediate release, coming out of Jamaica. Yeah. Coming out of Jamaica. Hang on. Jamaica confirmed 6 new COVID-19 cases. March 13, 2020. Jamaica has confirmed 6 new cases of the COVID virus disease 2019 on its island. The cases, which brings to 8 the number of confirmed cases, includes 2 males aged 63 and 67 who came into the island on March 7th from Trinidad, having traveled from Malaysia by way of Dubai and London. They presented at hospital on March 11th. 1 male, 36, who traveled from Manchester, England. He was taken to hospital from his hotel via ambulance on March 11th. 1 male, 31, a Jamaican overseas ship worker who came in from Canary Islands via Portugal and Miami. He arrived on the island on February 25th and presented to hospital with symptoms on March 10th. One male, 58, who is the father of the first patient who was confirmed with COVID-19. He was discovered ill at his home on March 11th. And one female, 34, who is a close contact also of the first patient who was confirmed with COVID-19 on the island. The Ministry of Health and Wellness, Dr. the Honorable Christopher Tufton, will meet with the media this morning or this afternoon to provide further details. He is currently examining the level of preparedness for COVID-19 in Western Jamaica. So the numbers in Jamaica start climbing. All that's needed, someone said, is one case to start. The good thing is they have taken measures to slow down people coming into contact with each other. Kids and teachers are at home, and business places, their patients visited close. I understand that. Yeah. Morning. she's like the what's that? You good?
I have more stuff to clean.
You have more stuff to clean. Okay. Good morning to our DJ Shady this morning. Morning, Shady.
Morning, real bad man.
Real bad man.
Not even Corona being here making you telling the truth now.
Why is she hating? Why is she hating, Shady? Can you tell me why she hating? And let me just let you know, from 8 o'clock this morning, we have our special guest coming in studio. Minister of Health, the Honorable Luke Brown, will be our special guest this morning from 8 o'clock. So make sure you tell someone that Minister of Health will be with us this morning from 8 o'clock. You want to... On Boom Chat Friday. That's what we call Fridays. Boom Chat Friday. You good over there? You need anything else? You sure? Shady, she good over there? Yeah. You sure you don't want some strong rub to clean? My God, Shady. The alcohol scent is killing us. The rubbing alcohol scent is killing us this morning. Dance and sanitizing. I mean, the entire studio. You need a mop and a bucket too.
I volunteered to.
My God, she's still sanitizing. You know what?
I hope that you are too. I see I have to adjust this again.
It's your hands that touches just now, so it's okay.
I just, you know.
Shady. It's funny looking at that. I wish you guys could see what's happening in the studios. Anyway, the cameras are on her, so you'll see it tonight. Make sure you log on to IKTV tonight to see what exactly we're talking about with her. She's just gone crazy. So much stuff to do and clean. Oh my God, there's another container came out as well there too. Is that another cleaning device there?
Yes, it is.
She's taking no charges, and she will not take any prisoners as well this morning.
How are you being?
I am good. I had a rough night, but I'm good. Just another update. Prime Minister Andrew, I always have a problem calling this guy's name. Is it Holness?
Yes.
Holness?
Yes.
My God, what a horrible name. Of Jamaica has advised that after consultation with the Ministry of Education, all public schools will be closed as of today, Friday, March 13th, for 14 days, the Jamaica Observer report. Holness said the decision will be reviewed after 10 days. The school is one of the areas of gathering where we would have very little control, Holness said at a press conference yesterday afternoon. Parents would have yesterday, today, and the weekend to prepare, Holness added. So, as of today, schools are closed in Jamaica for 40 days.
Good on him. Good job. Shut it down. You don't think so? Bing, I never knew you to be scared.
I'm not of what?
Saying how you feel.
No, I'm just enjoying. Your how you still. She's still cleaning. She's still standing sanitizing.
Home.
Let me ask you, were you like this last year? If coronavirus was wrong last year, would you have been like,
no,
this is the mother in you?
No, well, if it was her last year and I wasn't a mom, if I would be like this.
Yes.
I don't think probably as crazy.
Yeah.
But since him in general,
yes.
I am just so much more. Before Corona, I was washing my hand like crazy.
Yeah.
Just constantly. You don't even want to touch him if I touch something that might be dirty and stuff like that. But not only that, I mean, my mom, you know, she's older and stuff. I don't want to be the one that takes that in my home. I feel I wouldn't. No.
I don't think she will step out of her car between. Will you go anyway?
I had to go to get something yesterday, and you see, money's a dangerous thing.
Yes, money is.
Because
they've always said that.
I realized I had to get change back, and I almost didn't want to take it, but I gave her 50, and I only spent almost $8. So I needed that change back.
No, you were like, okay, keep it.
I was like, look, I got another tissue here. Just put it right. I handed out my hand with the tissue, and the woman kind of looked at me like, I said, no, you can put it right here.
With the tissue on top, put it on the
top
tissue.
my tissue.
And then what you did with the money
roll
after?
it up, and it's still rolled up because I don't know how to deal with it yet. I'm thinking about how.
Depending on what last strong rum.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's still in that tissue, and I'm just saying to myself, just
You know, this morning is the first time that I've ever seen the road so clear. Like,
really?
Not much movement at all this morning.
Movement.
Yeah. Well, between you coming from right there. You coming from
I'm coming from all the way around.
Oh,
remember
right.
the road, the traffic has changed.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. But normally, when I'm moving in the mornings, I would see quite a bit of movement. But this morning,
even this morning, I found like I got up after 3, and I looked outside. I'm like, where are these people going? Vehicles up and down the road.
They had an event last night.
I said, is there something going on that I don't know? And people trying to get to where they have to get really early before people
get on the road.
It was a lot.
You know, tomorrow is National Heroes Day, and we've not heard much about that at all.
Everything is being.
I haven't heard what is being done. There's some activities that I know which is planned tomorrow. There's a major activity planned in Fancy.
But would that be classified as large gatherings?
Yeah. Have we made a statement with regards to gatherings? Have the ministry made a statement as yet?
You are not represented, being.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So you have to be.
Well, that's why I'm asking the question now. I'm just asking the question. I'm not. Have the ministry? Someone could you message us and tell us?
Well, he's gonna be here, so you just.
No, maybe I might forget. You
won't forget. I just hope we have enough time to get all the questions in, because I know. Oh, I forgot to clean the phone.
Oh my goodness gracious. She's going to clean the phone now. I don't know if we've made a decision with regards to gatherings, but I know tomorrow, which normally is a time when we have lots and lots and lots of people, hundreds and hundreds of people go up to Fancy. I think there's an event as well. My gardener, Rasjan, was telling me about a major event that's happening in the Greg's area as well tomorrow. He was telling me about it very early in the week before we had the announcement of the case. I don't know what's going to happen to those events. You know, with Prime Minister Gonsalves, I don't think he's back yet. Or is he getting back to St. Vincent today? I think Cabinet is meeting today. So I hope that we get some decisions being made today in Cabinet. As to what is happening with gatherings and things of that
and a lot
nature.
of other things.
Lots and lots of other things we need something about.
Hey, Bing, Shady, and the beautiful Daniel. Good morning. As it relates to this question about mass gatherings, man, there is a public release on the Ministry of Health Facebook page. It has said that while they are considering distancing or social distancing, they say, and mass gathering limitations, it is not something that they've instituted just yet. And also in that press conference on Wednesday night, they did say that we're not yet at a level to necessitate them banning mass gatherings as such. But it's prudent. People figure they don't want to congregate. Don't congregate.
Yeah, that's a good point. You have to take responsibility, and the ministry have been saying along, you have to help in taking responsibility for your own self first, by doing the washing of hands constantly and all that. So you have to take responsibility with decisions you have to make for yourself and your family as well too. You have to decide whether you want to go to these gatherings, mass gatherings. You have to take the necessary responsibilities.
I told my mom she's not going nowhere.
Not even to church?
I said, so church right now. She said, well, you have to have some discretion. I said, no,
church
She
either?
wanted to come to town yesterday. I said, I'll get it to come to you.
Really?
You don't need to go for it. It's okay. Yeah. And guess what?
You did it.
I got it to come to her. She did not go down the road. Yes.
Do you think that we can be a bit too paranoid at times?
But this is something that we have to be, quote unquote, I don't think we should say paranoid, but whatever means is necessary to ensure that we're safe, we should take it. And I'm not going to wait for, I don't want to call
someone to make a decision for you.
Yeah, right? Because I'm not trying to be reactive. I'm dealing with this proactively. So in the event that we hear one jumps to, just saying in the event that it happens, no, my mom would at least have been home, stowed away in the house.
Yeah. One of the things that I've seen that's happening now, and I saw some photographs being shared around, it's prices of items which have jumped.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't know if there can be some sort of control where that is. Like something that was
ridiculous, man.
$8 or something like so. Within hours it went up to $20. And these are things that they know that persons are going for. Cleaning stuff.
But you live in a Vincentian society, okay? We're a small island. Not everybody is doing that great for themselves. Why would you in the morning have an item for 7 something and then double the price by the afternoon? What?
Yes, and especially central items now that they know that persons are rushing for.
No, man, that's
these sanitary items.
I understand supply and demand, but not in a time like this. Not only things that people need to keep themselves safe. It's not right.
Yeah.
So I hope they're listening.
Are these things regulated? There's a board that's what's it called now? Price control. It's not price control. The body. Oh my goodness gracious, it's gonna come to me in a bit.
It will.
Yeah. That regulate these things. This is the time when you need to regulate, because there are persons out there who cannot afford these things on a normal basis.
That's what I'm saying.
And they too will want to get them. But when you jack up the price in a matter of hours and put it so far out of their reach, what happens? What happens? And as you say, supply and demand, but still, Jesus Lord.
You're just doing what I feel like right now.
Yeah, it's not good.
No, it's
not good at all.
Then you're gonna hear bread and crackers for some ridiculous price and all them. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, they already been quoted for a profit already, so
you're making money already off of it. You wanna take that caller?
Yeah. Good morning, caller. Your life.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Morning, Mr. Joseph. Morning to your radio station staff.
Good morning.
Morning, young lady, because he ain't gonna answer back.
But I said good morning.
I know you said good morning before, but I tell you, you're not answer back. You're waiting to attack me. But you see,
good morning to you. Good morning to you, sir. Good morning.
Mr. Bing Joseph, my name is Stephen Potter.
Good morning. Good morning, Stephen.
How do you feel like? You see those business people in St. Vincent and Barbados? Prime Minister Gonzalez come home from Guyana, or if he here in Barbados, come home, and order the defense force to go and take over those business people places that can sell you a bottle of sanitizer for $7, as the young lady just said at 8 o'clock this morning. And at 2 o'clock this evening, they want to sell you that same bottle of sanitizer that they already got in the store, that they already clear for $20. Those people want shooting on site, Bing. You know, you and I are the only two people that can make them kind of statements because when Gonzalez make his, you is crazy. So me and you the only two boys can make that statement. They want shooting on such thing. They got something here in Barbados, thing. I can't believe the price that they're selling these things for in the evening after they sell them for nothing much. These shelves in the stores bare. They're here in Barbados fighting for toilet paper, pushing out the water for the sanitizers. God, that thing, I tell you, I want to do with this. And the white people that do it too, you know, they want one of the skull white. Because that's a child of God, thing. They're not white nor black, but they're a child of God. But these people so wicked. You got stuck in your bun ready, that already clear from the port, and you walk back in your bun and put on another sticker on the $7 sticker, or tear off the $7 sticker and put on a $20 sticker. You want to shoot him, bing? I Prime Minister God, that's it. God, he can't do nothing but going on in St. Vincent now with the case of coronavirus in St. Vincent. He had a law as to what to do. He can't even call his partner in trade, Donald Trump, to ask me to go. He can't get nothing done in America neither. None of them can't get nothing done, but Miss Motley got a place here that she could take all St. Vincent people that get sick.
It's Prime Minister Motley, call it Prime Minister Motley in Barbados?
Yeah, she come back.
She's back?
Yeah.
Okay.
All of them were supposed to come back yesterday. But if he wasn't get home yet, he probably getting some information from she and getting a lesson in taking care of fighting the coronavirus, because as the people in Barbados say about her, she's the strongest and most powerful leader in the Caribbean. She's stronger than Margaret Thatcher, Eugenia Childs, any of them put together, a whole lot of females put together. She's doing what she got to do, and the people in Barbados enjoying it. But these people, Bing, I can't help but say what we want doing to these business people. How can you got something for $7 this morning, and at 2 o'clock this evening it costs $20? You want shooting or coronavirus people want walking in the places and shoving the tongue in them people's mouth and give them the virus. Bing. How you doing, sir?
Have a good day, my brother. Have a good day.
You better don't make love to nobody. You hear how I put it? You better don't make love to nobody, because the lady in St. Vincent, I believe strongly, and you're the love man. You say you're the greatest love man. If you left your partner for 5 days or 3 days or 4 days, and you go to another country, and you was a loving and caring and a sexy individual, the first thing when you return, you just only want darkness to come over the land, or you just only want privacy in your bedroom, and you just get to work. And I'm convinced that female come back and probably had sex.
We got another call, Stephen.
What's the partner get quarantined?
Paul, have a good day with the confusion this morning. Thank you, my brother. Good morning, caller. I think we dropped out. Oh, Lord. We've seen some prices popping up online. These can't be real. You know, those prices can't be real. They can't be real.
$40 for sanitizer?
No, that's not real. That's not real. That's fake news.
Listen, if that is real,
that's fake news. That's fake news.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's fake news. That's not real. That's not real. That's fake news. That's fake news. Remember this morning at 8 o'clock, in another 28 minutes, we will have Minister of Health, the Honorable Luke Brown, in studio with us this morning.
I don't know if you saw it, but I think Fanfare Events, big up to you, Alexis.
Oh, yeah.
In collaboration with the Bank of SVG.
He told me about that before he told me about that.
Incredible.
The very day when he called in the morning, he spoke to me about it after I got off air.
Yeah.
He told me about it. Some stations.
Yes, they're doing some hand washing stations.
Yeah, amazing.
I think that's
great idea. Great idea. Good morning
to you guys.
Good morning.
Good morning. Bing.
Good morning.
I like what a Bajan guy telling you. That's the first thing I tell you. I know you're the bad man, but you can't make love in this time, you know. I hope you get that in your head. You can't make love. And we ain't talking about that, because some of we so cheap, some of we so, you know, love to make love, that we ain't understand we can be doing damage to our own selves. Huh?
Yeah.
Well, so think about it. But what happened? The Prime Minister ain't saying nothing. I hear the Prime Minister with anything.
We need to hear from him. We need to hear from the Prime Minister.
What I observe, like he leaves the lesser mortals to deal with this one. Like this one too hard for him to handle, or too big for him to handle.
We need to hear from the Prime Minister.
The They say own every square inch of this land. Let me hear what happening. I'll go on.
Thank you. I want to remind the Prime Minister, he once told me that if there's a hurricane or any disaster, the first person that the people of St. Vincent want to hear from is himself. We need to hear from you, Prime Minister. What's going on? We need to hear from the Prime Minister, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves. We need to, you forgot you told me that. We need that reassuring voice. We need to hear from you. Someone said, Bing, ban all mass gathering, bro.
Well, what they said is
Do it now to prevent more cases. All schools in Jamaica are closed.
What they said is that it would be considered.
To be considered.
Yes, social distancing and limits on mass gatherings will be considered. I'm not too sure what that means. I guess we can clarify that today.
When he gets in.
Yes, but a number of things were approved in cabinet on Friday, and that was one of the things that came out of it.
Really?
Yes, a number of things they approved.
The other thing that I wanna mention, yesterday morning when Fitz Bramble called in, when he called in, yesterday morning. Let me take this call and get back to you. Good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Am I on air?
Yes, you are on air.
Okay, great. Please allow me to put on some information to the Kingston Government School, the students and the parents. We should have had a march and rally this morning, beginning at Whitechapel, but I have been informed that the Ministry of Health has placed a ban on all mass gatherings.
Good job.
So, pardon?
Good job.
Yes, so we've had to cancel the march. I'm asking all students to report to the annex, the Kingston Government School Annex behind the Victoria Park. So there'll be no march. Please report to school at the annex.
So they're gathering at the annex?
Yes, please.
But that's mass gathering.
Well, it's school.
What's it? Can you state the name of the school one more time for us, please?
Kingston Government School.
Right.
That's why there needs to be a decision made with regards to schools. I'm not saying to rush and be crazy and say, well, shutting down school like they have in other jurisdictions. But when you ban mass gatherings and schools have assembly and this and that, that's also mass gathering.
Well, I do understand that, but that's what we can do at this moment.
Thank you for the information and thanks for calling.
All right.
Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
You were saying Fitz.
Yes. Fitz called in yesterday and he spoke about calling for a national task force.
Yes.
You remember that? And he said this national task force should be with government, the Prime Minister headed by the Prime Minister Dr. Gonsalves, and the leader of the opposition should be on that national task force. Amazing idea. Those are the kind of ideas that we need, you know. And someone told me yesterday, Shady, okay with it, buddy? Someone told me yesterday that when Fitz commented on the work that the Ministry of Health is doing and the work of the Minister of Health, that Fitz is some crazy statement
Please
about.
Tell me they didn't get political with it.
Yeah. And come on, we are in a time of crisis. Never mind, we've got one now, but we are in a time of crisis. You know, Jamaica had one early this week, day before yesterday. Yesterday, Jamaica had one. No, not yesterday. On Tuesday, they had one. This morning, they have 6. Come on, people. Come on. All right, let's take a commercial break as we prepare to have the Minister of Health, the Honorable Luke Brown, join us this morning. He'll be in at 8 o'clock. So let's take a commercial break. We've got Mr. Weeks coming up right after the commercial break as well, too, this morning. Stand by.
We lighten up the morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. OMG in the morning. The real bad man of radio. Bing, Daniil, and DJ Diego. OMG in the morning.
All right, well, you're standing. That's it. Yeah, we're standing by now for me to be joined by Mr. Weeks. The confusion, man. You know, everywhere I went yesterday, everybody telling me, oh, Mr. Weeks, man. I think we've got him on the line. Good morning, Mr. Weeks.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, Daniel, good morning. I'm not in any confusion.
That's what you think.
leave all the confusion to you.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm very good.
By the way, I stand corrected. I said a while ago that Jamaica has 6 cases. It's actually 8 cases, not 6.
Yeah.
So I want to make that correction.
On yesterday.
Yes.
Daniel, it has been an eventful week. Some things that we really would have been talked about at this point in time. So we have to leave some of those for later on. I still think that we have to stick to the health issues. And we have to prepare ourselves going forward. As we've seen the progress in other places, I said sometime a ridiculous thing might have been for the world to shut down. But it seems as though it is happening one country at a time. The things, this is an event that while you have to take individual action, and individual action is paramount, we still have to think about the good of the society. The price gouging that I heard you guys referring to, it's really ridiculous for us to be contemplating that at this point in time. You can't seek to protect yourself in this case and leave your neighbors exposed.
Mr. Reese, what is the state agency that's responsible for things of price control and things of that nature?
It will be the Ministry of Trade. But you know, the world has gone towards removing or have as little price controls as possible. But in times of crisis, there are lots of laws on the books that have not been used in many years. And I believe if they become necessary, the government would have to use them. So the price control unit, I think, is in the Ministry of Trade. And but there are a limited number of goods that are on the price control list at this point in time, maybe 4 or 5, certainly less than 10. And but we have to be responsible being and do the responsible thing. I hope as individuals we're taking note of what is happening elsewhere. For example, the parents. I believe at some point in time school would be closed. The parents have to start addressing their minds to that. Even at the household level, you have to start addressing your mind to, should one of my family come down with the virus, how am I going to manage it? You may have to designate those persons who can do it. You may have to designate a particular room in the house with certain conditions, good ventilation, little access to the rest of the family. These are all things that we have to put in place. I insist that we cannot panic, because panic brings fear, and you can get to a stage when you panic where you don't act. Or if you act irrationally and you may not do the best thing, given all the circumstances. Do not panic, get all the information, and act accordingly. Protect yourself, but don't do so at the expense of others. That is what I would like to encourage our population to do. I know that you're having the minister in a while. I want to give you as much time as you need to prepare for the minister. I know the minister is making his rounds. So I heard Daniel contemplating whether or not you would have enough time for him to get the questions. He will be elsewhere, I am sure. I'm not speak. Given the circumstances, I am assuming that he will be elsewhere on other radio stations and so forth. So those persons who get in the question on your radio station thing, and leave room when you go elsewhere for others to ask questions. And let us keep the politics out of this thing. This can't be a political issue.
So do you agree with Fitzbramble's suggestion about a task force which includes the leader of the opposition?
I would have loved it to elaborate a bit more and to indicate what was the role of the task force. Because I will quite honestly prefer the administrators to be dealing with this problem so that we can keep the politics out of it. There are some broad issues that must be dealt with because this is going to have more of an economic effect on our country than health, you know. It is unfortunate that persons are going to get sick and persons may even die. And I'm not saying that callously. I'm saying that's the reality. Persons may die. And for the individual, the family that loses a loved one or the family whose loved one gets sick, that's very critical, that's very important. But as a nation, what is going to affect us most would be the economic activity, because there would become a time when mass gatherings may have to be curtailed, as we are seeing in other parts of the world. As the situation progresses, mass gatherings that may have to be curtailed.
There are two immediate events which comes up tomorrow. What do you think about those?
Bing have been encouraging for the longest while social distancing and asking persons to take control of the individual situation. It is sad.
But does the state have a responsibility as well to make certain decisions on behalf of those?
Yes, but given where we are at, it may be irresponsible for the state to shut down those things because we have not had any reported community spread at this point in time. So we can't act as though we are having community spread.
How do we get community spread, Mr. Weeks?
For example, the lady who imported the case from England, if a member of her family or somebody who she was in contact with get the disease and then it starts going through the community, then we would have community spread. At this point in time, quarantine is what is recommended, and that is what the state is doing, encouraging quarantine and social distancing. Cleaning, as Daniel is doing. But Daniel, you can't clean and then with your clean hands you touch an item and then you're paranoid to touch the item again, you know.
Mr. Weeks?
I understand.
Okay, great. I have some suggestion from someone on WhatsApp that I'd like to read for you.
Call his name.
You let me know. Marlon Butte.
Marlon Butte, yeah. He sent these for you.
Yes.
All right.
What you think.
So, and he said from Marlon. So the first suggestion is water should be immediately reconnected for all households that had their water disconnected.
Pause.
Okay.
Get a response from me. What do you think of that?
That's worth considering, yes.
Okay. Number 2, CWSA should discount substantially water bills over the next 3 months to ensure households to use water to promote proper hygiene without too much regard for the cost of the water usage.
No, I don't agree with that. We are in the dry season and people still have to, while you clean what is necessary, we still have to keep things in place so that the water is not wasted.
Okay, so you don't agree with that one.
No.
3, that CWSA should immediately begin to erect temporary public pipes throughout SVG to make water available to all.
Marlon wants to introduce the politics into this, but that's what's considering.
That last one is worth consideration.
Yes. As a matter of fact, those public pipes should have never been removed in certain areas.
Okay.
Those public, I mean, in many areas we should have still had public pipes. They should not have been removed. I can think of several that were removed where it was totally unnecessary.
But did you agree to the first suggestion about immediately reconnecting for all households that had their water disconnected? Did you agree to that?
Well, I can't say all because there may be situations where it's not warranted. If you have an empty house where no one is.
Yeah, but in those cases where there are houses that persons are in, families are in.
Yes, it's worth considering.
Even just for this period.
Yes.
Because we can't be preaching wash hands, wash hands, wash hands, wash hands, but persons don't have water.
And running water is
running water
for washing the hands. But at the same time, while we're giving them access to water, can't encourage wastage.
Marlon just said it's not politics. Why would he say it's politics?
Marlon would know why I say politics with regards to the standpipes. I don't want to go the thing.
Yes.
Not under the
yes.
I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about.
Yes. Okay.
So we leave room for the minister to come in.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Is there anything else you want to touch before we get to him?
Well, being there's some other issues, I spoke to you briefly about some of them last night. I didn't get to make that call. When I saw the number, it was late. But let him know I'll be in touch with him at some point in time. And there's some issues that all week I avoid addressing. For example, Danielle mentioned one this morning. I don't know if she was joking or she was serious.
Which one is that?
That nobody from the station attending the briefing and so forth. Those are things that we can speak about privately.
Yeah, well, I have said that will be corrected. Yesterday I said that on air, that will be corrected immediately. Yeah. And additionally, I sent a voice note to the chief medical officer.
No, not that one.
No. And in that voice note, I said that I will immediately correct that we will attend all of the ministry functions. I said, I told her that in that voice note.
And continue to carry the live broadcast where it's necessary.
Okay.
I think you did in the last.
Yes, I did carry it.
Yes, then you guys are coming along, you know.
I know where we're coming from.
Yeah, that's another one. You know, I'll break that one on you.
Oh boy.
Where you? Daniel, avoid the paranoia. I understand, but you can't act properly when you panic.
I'm not panicking. I'm being safe. Thank you, Mr. Weeks. Have a good weekend.
You too.
All right.
Everybody.
It's 8 o'clock.
.1069 Boom.
So we're back inside and we've got with us the Honorable Minister of Health. Sorry about the loudness because we're a bit loud in here, so you know that is. Good morning.
He's loud.
Well, apart from being loud, I think I have to comment on the feel of the studio.
Hey, come on.
It's the first time that I'm...
Oh, you're first time here?
First time I'm here with you.
Okay.
And I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it.
There you go. You're scoring some points there.
It's amazing. It's different. And listen, if you want to sing with us with that, and we go down.
Come back up now.
Going down comes easy for you, right?
Okay, guys. He has to play some kind of effect.
I'm coming back up too because clearly the table is top technology.
Yeah, come on. That one does it as well too. Okay. Welcome to Boom. Good morning to you. Good morning.
Yeah, man.
I wish we were meeting under different circumstances than what we are this morning. Well, of course, who would know but you? Where are we, Minister?
Well, any opportunity to meet is a good opportunity in the first place, and as you recognize, as most Vincentians know, we are here this morning in the circumstances where the World Health Organization has declared that the outbreak of coronavirus, COVID-19, being the specific reference, constitutes a pandemic. That declaration was made on March 11th. And on the same day, March 11th, the Ministry of Health received confirmation of the first case of coronavirus in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And so it means that we have to devote and continue to devote special attention to the response for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And the truth is, many persons have been trying to understand how they should interpret the news that has been coming from health agencies internationally and the news from health agencies in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and to determine what should really be our optimal response in these circumstances. And basically, I think it boils down to a matter of risk assessment, risk mitigation, risk control to the extent possible. I'd just like to shed some light on it by saying that, if we would respond to the risk of, say, getting in an accident on our way to work this morning by making sure that there's no traffic at all on the road, and if we should respond to the risk that somebody might die because of a plane crash by saying that we shouldn't travel anywhere, or if we should respond to the risk of, say, one of our children getting flu in school by saying we should close down school completely. And I use flu in this case purposely because in the literature and in the discussion about coronavirus, you've seen that many persons say that this thing is somewhat akin to the flu in terms of its impact, in terms of its severity. And so you want to then ask yourself if that is a proportionate or appropriate way to respond to the risk. If we should say, well, we should close our borders in response to coronavirus, or if we should decide that we're not going to have any more cruise ships coming to St. Vincent and the Grenadines because of coronavirus. We are going to take all necessary precautions. I mean, there's obviously the need for concern. I mean, after all, the World Health Organization declared that coronavirus constitutes a public health emergency of international concern in the first case, and now we are dealing with a pandemic. The world is in uncharted territory. We've seen what happened. It happens in terms of restrictions and so on all over. But, we still assess it in the context of understanding what the risk is and understanding how we could protect ourselves against that risk. And, there's a now famous press conference which was held by the Honorable Mia Mottley in Barbados at the conclusion of a meeting of heads of government on coronavirus. And she spoke about some of the risks there. She said, well, look, we might face right now in St. Vincent and the Grenadines a greater risk to serious health from mosquito-borne diseases. But, coronavirus seems to overtake that. And some people have said, including the Director General of the World Health Organization, that, it seems as if the panic and the anxieties that are associated with this new development might end up causing us more harm than the virus itself. One of the things that may cause tremendous impact through our countries is what would happen in terms of our economies. When persons contemplating the need for quarantine measures to be applied even in their own personal spaces and in their offices, when we might consider the situation where the NIS might be flooded with a lot of sick leave, and you have to pay compensation. So the economic impact is of a considerable note. I mean, persons say, well, first of all, we know the standard public health advice as far as coronavirus is concerned and containing the spread of coronavirus. And we've heard it repeated. It has been repeated on this station and it has been repeated elsewhere. You adhere to proper and regular and usual and age-old and tried and tested advice. Wash your hands. Try to keep your hands out of your face as much as possible. If you are coughing, then cover your mouth properly using your elbow. If you use a tissue, throw it away as soon as possible. And you, in your own way, could avoid going into contact with persons who might have a cough or a cold. So this is standard advice that we could still adhere to. And if we practice this in our own lives, then we already are mitigating the risk while trying to see if we could go about our lives as normal as possible. And on top of that, we have information saying that really, if you, in the worst case scenario, and we heard an announcement recently about the wife of the Canadian Prime Minister contracting coronavirus. We heard that there's some NBA players who have coronavirus, and they are taking it in perspective because most of the cases which arise, as has already been said, will be mild. Over 80% of the cases. So you're dealing with 20% of persons may be experiencing mild to serious symptoms associated with coronavirus. And you have a small group of them who may have compromised immune systems or who may be very old. And when I talk about very old, we're talking about in the category of 80 plus. We might have a small group of them who may have a reasonable chance of mortality as a result of it. But the death rate as a result of coronavirus, again, is comparable to the flu. And again, outside of China has been almost about just around 1%. So we're not taking something that really is going to mean that you would have debilitating illness or face the most extreme results as a result of it. But nonetheless, it is a concern, and we have to do what we could to contain its spread, and that is precisely what we've been doing in St. Vincent.
Do you think that since night before, when this information came out in your press conference, that as a nation, yesterday, we overreacted?
Well, I'm not going to really necessarily comment on the overreactions of the nation. I mean, I'll make a few specific things. I mean, persons will respond in a way that they see fit. It's our job to make sure that they have enough information at their disposal to make their personal decisions. For instance, one of the fads, you might say, that arises as a result of it is that people decide that they should use face masks, as they go about their ordinary conduct. But the advice from the World Health Organization is that healthy persons do not need to use face masks, and it's just a case where somebody might be sick and they might need to go and see a healthcare professional, that they should use a face mask to prevent the chance that they spread this virus to someone else. So maybe some public education will help in allaying some persons' fears and concerns over this matter, but that is just one case of something that I have seen. People have commented on price gouging in respect of certain supplies and sanitary supplies and things that are required for personal hygiene, like hand sanitizers and whatnot. And that is something that could be controlled by regulations, including by stepping in, by the relevant entity stepping in and making sure that there are controls as far as prices are concerned. There are controls as far as the number of items that any one person might be able to have access to. And I think that those things could go a long way to help mitigate.
Are you ready? Are you prepared? Do you think you've got this thing under control? When I say you, I mean your ministry, the government. Do you think you've got this thing under control?
Well, the truth is, even before we got news of the case, we had a press conference. It was last week, Friday, 1 week ago, exactly. And we said at that press conference that, look, we are on a footing in the ministry such that we are operating as if coronavirus is already here. We are making sure that the systems, to the extent practical and possible, are in place. And clearly, the development of our capacity is an ongoing development. We have been in touch with the public on an ongoing basis about the things that the ministry is doing. And we are still doing many things. And we still going to be required to act almost on a 24-hour basis to make sure that everything is in place. We have this confirmed case of coronavirus. Details were presented and so on. And the medical management of this person has been described as exemplary. I mean, some persons want to dig very deeply. They want us to tell them the name and the address and so on of this person who was sick. But I think reasonable people recognize that they also have a need to respect privacy. And they just need to know, and I would like to reassure the public that the ministry is on the job and the ministry is not going to let up in making sure that the public is as safe as possible.
So you have it under control?
I would say that we have it under control. I'm not saying that we are functioning in ideal circumstances. You know that we had made a move to equip and to prepare one of our facilities to serve as an isolation center, and that we had to review that decision ultimately. Subsequently, we had to look for another location. I'm happy to report that we've found that other location. We've been able to iron out and work out a lease arrangement with the owner of the property. We've been able to get contractors to move in and to commence work on bringing that up to speed so that it could serve as an isolation center. We have been carrying out quarantine measures as the need arose.
Is it outfitted already? You said that.
No, it's not outfitted already.
How long would it take to be outfitted?
Well, I should be able to provide a clear answer for you by the end of today. I mean, I'm not going to have the opportunity
a month
to say.
Or 2 months?
No, we're going to try to bring it home earlier than that. In fact, the discussion that I had with the contractor yesterday is if it were possible for him to essentially have a 24-hour operation with his workers being on shift. Maybe you work one 8-hour shift and another group another 8-hour shift and then the third group another 8-hour shift.
Can we see this place to reassure the public that, listen, this place is up, it's in good settings, it's in good order?
Well, you could see the condition of the location now. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of work still to be done, on site. So seeing it now as far as making a determination of its readiness is not necessarily going to be useful. But we would come back to you, and we'll come back to you very soon and say, look, this place is going to be ready by X, Y, and Z date. And you could tell that because of the urgency that I have emphasized around this project, it will be very quick. But in the meantime, we have isolation capacity. We see that we have a situation where someone is being isolated.
You've got isolation capacity where?
Well, we have isolation capacity in the sense that this person right now is being isolated at home, under the care.
It's not your isolation capacity.
When we have isolation capacity, I'm talking about we have capacity in the country to carry out isolation. And this
where?
at the home of this person in particular, and then other healthcare facilities in general, or hospitals, all public hospitals, if the need does arise, must be able to serve as isolation facilities as well. So we have those options on the table if we should need to play that card. But notwithstanding that, we are still working to see how quickly we could bring the isolation center into Argyle into operation.
And this center that you guys are working on, what's the number of persons that it will be able to hold?
Well, I think quite a number of people. I believe that
the quantify.
Yeah, I'm going to quantify. That was just the opening.
Okay.
The opening statement.
Okay.
Quite a number of people. I think that the original estimate is that in a short order, we should be able to have about 20 or so persons, if need be, accommodated there, and there's space apart from that for healthcare personnel who would be responsible for taking care of the patients, and ultimately we might be able to get up to about 50 or so persons being able to be isolated at that facility.
And the proper equipment to retrofit this area, is it on its way? Is it here already? Or what's the situation with that?
You asked a pertinent question, because I've heard persons commenting on the scale of the response by the government, to this development. And I just wanted to present clarifying information related to cabinet decisions. In the first place, the cabinet decided that we would go ahead in preparing this facility. And I'm talking about decisions which were taken a long time ago. And that we will go ahead with this facility, and that we will enter a lease arrangement with the owners. Now, the lease arrangement is going to cost the government per annum about $100,000. And I thought that there was a suggestion that all that the government is doing in terms of coronavirus is spending $100,000 to get some laboratory equipment. Far from the truth. We're talking here about what we're doing in terms of getting this property here under the government's ownership, so that work could be done, or under the government's control, so that work could be done. $100,000 per year, essentially. On top of that, we're going to carry out works on the facility, which is perhaps going to cost us something of the order of $300,000 or so. It could be more, depending on some things that might come to light in the next couple of days. Apart from that, so we are spending in one shot on one facility, not even considering the lab and what we're hoping to do on the lab, something of the order of $500,000. And apart from that, we have invested
US dollars or EC dollars?
500,000 EC dollars in terms of that isolation facility and the immediate works there. And that's not to talk about the equipment that we need for the isolation center. The cabinet approved expenditure, and this approval of expenditure, as I say, is a couple weeks old, of just under, and this is apart from what I just described in the isolation facility, of just under $3 million to take care of supplies and equipment, including equipment for isolation and equipment for the lab and equipment for other aspects of our healthcare response. This does not include the fact that we already have things on the ground. We already have personal protective equipment that would be required by health professionals responding. So we are talking about a scale of response that right now we could quantify, and without covering some additional costs, some miscellaneous costs, which we leave out for this purpose, of $3.5 to $4 million. And this is far from the suggestion which was being made. So the government has a very strong response. In addition to that, we are expanding the scale of our health operation. We are taking on persons, we are hiring new nurses, we are hiring new nursing assistants through various arrangements, including under the SET program. So my statement to the public today is that the government is taking this seriously, and not only is it taking it seriously, but it is putting its money where its mouth is to safeguard Vincentians in the wake of coronavirus. I
want to get to specifically, when would this facility be up and ready? You said you can't, given the construction and all.
And I wouldn't vary that.
Okay, but with regard to the equipment to retrofit it, how long would it take? Have you ordered this equipment? Is it already on the ground? Or what's the situation with that?
See, I don't want to mention it now. I'm saying that I'm going to research it and I'll come back to you as quickly as possible with a reasonable time.
So you don't know if it's ordered?
I don't know the time frame that would.
But do you know if it's?
Yes, we have received the invoices and the order was being processed. If it's completed, I'll get those details. And it's not as if.
So won't it take about a month to get here?
No.
It will get here.
It will get here very quickly. And allow me to get the information and bring it back to you. I mean, I am not going to I don't want to speak without being definitive on it. It is too important for us to venture into the realm of speculation. But I gave you the commitment because I'm also going to be almost speaking about what we are doing in respect of coronavirus on a daily basis. So there is no lag really that would come between now and you getting proper information on all the specifications.
I have a question from someone on our WhatsApp. They're asking, how soon can we expect testing to be available on island?
Well, first of all, I want to put it in context by saying that we could do testing right now. We have an arrangement with the Caribbean Public Health Agency in Trinidad and Tobago, and some persons think, well, that is outside of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we mightn't be a priority for this lab. This is a Caribbean Public Health Agency lab. So it's a Caribbean entity in which St. Vincent and the Grenadines is a proper, full, and equal stakeholder with anybody else. So it is essentially our lab, just that it is located in Trinidad and Tobago. And the experience we've had with testing at that lab is good.
What's the turnaround time?
We've had a turnaround time of 4 to 6 hours on receipt of the sample and getting results.
How long did it take with the present patient who's been contracted? How long did it take for you to get the
Well, it was within the same time frame. I mean, I don't know exactly how long that particular instance took, but I know that in general the turnaround time has been between 4 to 6 hours. And
if that is the case, then why then make a move? If you're happy with what you have now, why then make a move and budget some almost $100,000 US? Well, if that is the case.
Well, because in addition to, first of all, it might be useful and desirable for the public's good and welfare and peace of mind that we could do this in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We acknowledge that. And beyond coronavirus, the investment in the instrument that we're trying to acquire to carry out this test is going to essentially strengthen our laboratory services because it would have application outside of coronavirus. So we could test for other things. We could test for influenza A, we could test for influenza B, and we could essentially customize it to take care of other issues that might arise from time to time. So it is an investment generally in expanding our laboratory capability that would help us to deal with coronavirus today and deal with many other things going forward. And just on the point of the lab, we have something happening at the hospital right now, which I think the public welcomes and appreciates. I know that recently there was a discussion in studio about the move that we're making about making the laboratory services available on a 24-hour basis, and we're going forward with that move. And just like we have done in respect of radiology at the hospital, we're providing 24-hour service because we believe that if somebody presents themselves at the accident and emergency department at 11 o'clock in the night, they should not have to wait for someone to come from home and to attend to them at the hospital when the matter might be life and death. And we believe that we had the staff, we have the resources available, there's a way in which it could be done that is beneficial to all parties concerned, and that's precisely what we have done. The reviews in respect of what was happening at the radiology department were excellent. And we're now having similar anticipation and hopefulness associated with what we're hoping to do at radiology. And then we are going to move into what we're going to do in the lab, and then we're going to take care of pharmacy and other related services. And it will entail expanding the offices, the opening hours for the steward's office, and a lot more. But we're talking about the lab, and what we're doing there in terms of coronavirus, and the testing is right up there. And I should say here as well that the laboratory in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is developing a very strong reputation. I mean, not only has did the government take the proactive step of separating the lab out from the general hospital services and creating it as a program unto itself in the ministry, because we thought that was necessary for effective management, but the lab has satisfied. We're involved right now with the lab in a stepwise accreditation process, and we've already completed Tier 1. And as a result of completing Tier 1, the ministry posted recently on its social media page that we have been able essentially to usher in a new era of laboratory testing in this country. And on top of that, we are going to now even expand further what we're able to offer by what we are investing in.
So how soon will the testing kits be here?
Well, I don't know if
have they been ordered?
The instrument.
Yes.
The instrument, as I've been advised, has been ordered. And I asked and I could just tell you the course of our conversations, because we're just being open about it. I've asked when we had the press conference, the initial press conference last week Friday, we said that look, in light of the fact that we already have some testing capacity from out of Trinidad and Tobago, our time frame for setting up the testing capacity in country was by the end of March. And after we had this recent development, I spoke to the chief laboratory technologist and asked him if it were possible for us to work out an arrangement that would allow the instrument and all that goes with it, the reagents and supplies, to arrive in country by next week. And he said that he will talk to the suppliers and see if that is possible.
Is next week here?
Next week, as in this week.
Next week coming?
This next week.
Okay.
He said that he will talk to the suppliers and see if that is possible, but he says that it may not be possible. And however, we should be able to, by the following week, which is within the original time frame that we had articulated, have that testing capacity here.
There have been a number of calls, including from us and some of our guests and some of our contributors and questions about testing at our port of entries, in particular at the airport and at the cruise ship terminal as well too. That persons who said that they walk right through, nothing was done, no test was
well, checks, not really tests per se, but
checks were made. This person who we now know, who's confirmed to have the COVID virus in SVG, what if this person did not come forward and say, listen, I feel that I have got this thing. The symptoms are pointing me in this direction. What if it was someone else who could have stayed at home in their communities? And then, what are we doing with
I just went through some literature that was about the response in certain areas of the United States of America to criminal activity, gun-related violence, and so on. And in one social experiment, the police department decided that it's going to stop basically all traffic, all vehicles, to see if it could find a gun. You know, and the fact is, the hassle through which you put the entire all motorists through, just in the vain effort to find a gun when you had a 1 in a million probability of getting that gun, actually caused the public to revolt against it.
But these are special times with special circumstances,
right.
Mr. Minister. This is not a regular check at our port. This is a special time when the world is doing this.
But we're trying to reduce crime is also special in special circumstances always. And I'm just drawing on this analogy to make a point here. So are you going to search everyone in trying to find a weapon that might be used for a crime, or are you going to concentrate your search on particular groups of persons in particular areas or locations that might be high risk? And that's precisely what is guiding.
But was this done with this particular patient, or did the patient voluntarily come forward?
Well, in the first place, right now, the United Kingdom is not on the quarantine list for coronavirus. And you might have to ask the question of if that should change in light of the developments. And then you have to ask the question of a proportionate response, if we should proportionate response in the circumstances. But I'm just simply saying here that if a person comes from one of the countries on our quarantine list, which we've identified as the high-risk areas for coronavirus spread because of the way in which it is circulating, then we would subject them to an elevated level of screening. But if somebody is coming from Barbados, or if somebody is coming from Dominica, and the situation is changing, then do we screen them in the same way?
But Minister, if in this situation, like you just said, the person who is now in isolation was not checked and did not come from one of the destinations that were labeled as those that require quarantine, right?
I didn't say that person was not checked.
Was the person checked
upon entry?
Well, based on the information that I have, that the person, well, all persons who are sick, visibly sick, as in they're showing symptoms of disease, coughing or sneezing and so on, will be subjected to special
screening. But was this the case with this particular patient?
Well, we didn't see this showing up in respect of this patient.
So that's what I'm saying. Given that this has taken place, and this is a person who was not even coming from one of those places where we would say a high risk, a greater risk than other destinations, don't you think that maybe we should reconsider our approach in that regard? Especially given the other islands that I know of, I can tell you for a fact, they're at least checking, temperatures of persons, anything that they can do, asking them questions,
We are doing that here as well.
When did that start?
Yes, when?
It started before this case appeared.
Okay, because I know a lot of persons who came through the airport anticipating being checked as they were in other countries, and they were not checked.
Right, but we're doing that here. I mean, we're not doing it for every single passenger. As I say, you might have persons coming from certain destinations that will be subject to elevated levels of screening. But we're trying to assess and manage the risk in that situation. And as I said, the situation is under review. And the policy and the procedure will be reviewed in light of new developments. When? It is subject to review every day.
But given that we've got this case who came through the crack, based on what you said, because the person was not checked, right? Why wasn't it reviewed since then?
It's a subject to review. Subject to review.
Let's take a break. Come right back. We've got Minister Luke Brown with us this morning. We're going to take a break. We should be having Jerry, but we're going to put him until after. We're going to hold with him because we got the minister, and we're going to take some time with him this morning. Let's take a break and come right back. OMG.
We lighten up the morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. OMG in the morning. The real bad man of radio. Bing, Daniil, and DJ Diego. OMG in the morning.
All right, so we're back inside with Minister Luke Brown, Minister of Health this morning, and the most appropriate time to have him. You good?
Yeah, man, I cool.
You sure?
You're supposed to ask him that off air.
Why not? Come on, why not? You can have him, sir.
Feeling like, you know?
Like what?
You know how you get sometimes.
I'm control. Am I not nice?
I got you.
Am I, Minister, you feel? Am I good?
Well, I like your company.
Okay, good. Here we go. You see? I'm not as bad as you think.
Okay, we're coming down. Get in there.
No, I'm not. I was told that you got to be nice.
Okay, good.
Minister, do we intend, and I want to get back to the isolation issue, do we intend to continue, given that this place is not ready, to continue isolating persons? God forbid that we get a few other cases, isolate persons at home, and how safe is this if we're doing this?
Well, we will assess the situation. It's pretty difficult to give an abstract answer outside of the situation actually arising, because it will depend on the number of persons, perhaps the condition of the properties and the general environment. It might depend on, our judgment of what we should do in respect of some of the facilities that we have right now. So there are many factors. So it's difficult to give an answer without knowing the specifics of if another case might arise or how many cases and so on will be involved, and the particular persons who are the cases relate to.
And the safety of doing it at home.
And the safety of doing it at home. Well, that's why I'm talking about the property of the individual and how safe it might be, and for healthcare workers to basically manage that patient in that area.
Okay. Will there be cabinet today, this morning? I was told.
I don't think there's going to be cabinet today, and I would know.
Okay, I'm asking.
But we had cabinet on Wednesday, and on Wednesday we had an extended discussion on matters related to coronavirus.
Give me some of the major decisions that were taken with regards to schools, mass gatherings, and all of that.
Well, I'm not sure that we took any major decisions in respect of schools and mass gatherings, or you would have heard about it. As I say, that the situation is evolving. We've seen, for instance, in Jamaica that they took a decision that they should close schools, and not only close schools, but also take similar actions in respect of the University of the West Indies. I don't think that is quite the thinking of the government right now. As I say, the situation is changing and evolving, and it gets back to where we were at the beginning of the program. If it is necessary for us to respond in this way to this virus.
And the landing of cruise ships.
And, well, we still, first of all, let's just establish that the cruise ships themselves, and this came out in at the heads of government meeting that took place in Barbados, the cruise ships themselves would have an elaborate system of screening and checking and isolating and quarantining passengers on board who might be sick. And if somebody is sick on a cruise ship, they are not able to disembark that cruise ship when it makes a stop in any country. So that's happening right now. And you could understand that even outside of coronavirus, there is the need for the cruise ship to have this kind of protocol.
So, wait a minute. Am I hearing that you're saying basically that cruise ships will still come? That they will still be making calls to
cruise ships are still making calls to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I'm saying that on a case-by-case basis, if somebody has coronavirus on a cruise ship, clearly that cruise ship will not be making a call to St. Vincent.
Have you heard the United States State Department position with regards to cruise and the cruise industry and the number of companies that are pausing as a result?
Well, the United States has a different situation from St. Vincent.
No, but these companies are leaving the United States to come to the Caribbean, and they have stopped them. So what are you saying?
Well, I have also heard that the United States has banned all travel from Europe to the United States of America, apart from American nationals. Are you suggesting that because they have done that we should do that too in St. Vincent and the Grenadines?
So are you saying then that it is okay to have Europeans, including people from Italy, to come to St. Vincent?
I would say if somebody is coming from certain countries which we have put on a quarantine list, which includes Italy, they are able to travel to St. Vincent and the Grenadines and will be subject to quarantine for 14 days so that their health situation could be managed.
Okay, so we can see the Adia Pearl this afternoon coming into Port Kingston.
If there is no health risk associated with it, it's possible for you to see that.
And when you say no health risk associated with it, what exactly does that mean?
That means that so long as the protocols, because there are protocols as far as allowing a cruise ship to enter your shores. And one of the protocols is that certainly no one would have COVID-19 on the cruise ship. And
you said no one would?
If someone has COVID-19 on a cruise ship, then that cruise ship will not be allowed to dock in St. Vincent.
But what if the case does not show up? Yeah. And it manifests itself while the cruise is in Port Kingston and the person is out and about? Wow. Don't you think that's an area for this one to slip through? I'm still a bit confused there, Minister.
If the person is sick, what I could say clearly is that the cruise itself is the screens its passengers for sickness. If they are sick, they are kept in isolation on the ship. And St. Vincent has been following the public health protocols as far as managing cruise arrivals in St. Vincent.
So our protocols are different than Tobago and Grenada, which have stopped and disallowed certain crews from coming in?
Well, there was a decision in some other countries. Like I'm saying, the United States of America decided to ban travel from Europe to the USA altogether. Does that mean that we have to do that in St. Vincent and the Grenadines in our specific circumstances? I mean, as I say, we are managing risk. And if the situation is developing, if the government, if there's information that comes to hand, would suggest that we should take another step in this fight against coronavirus, COVID-19, we will take that step. And we are approaching our duty in as responsible a way as possible.
But you're doing it baby steps. Baby steps.
We're doing it based on guidance from the World Health Organization to begin with, and the World Health Organization does not recommend restrictions on travel. So that's the first source of our guidance.
But it's the same World Health Organization who've labeled this thing a pandemic.
They label it a pandemic, and a pandemic, just to demystify the term, means that essentially there will be some amount of spread of this virus in all countries. So we have to take that as something which will happen. So all countries are susceptible to receiving cases. But overall, they are saying that a response to this does not need to entail the closing of your borders. Some persons in their particular circumstances might make that decision, and I don't want to enter into their frame of mind as to why that decision would be made. But we're just talking about our specific circumstances here.
Why is NEMO involved at this point, though? Is this a national emergency, and why is it not being treated as such?
Why? Sorry, why?
NEMO.
Why is NEMO?
Why are they involved?
Why are they involved?
Yes.
Well, NEMO is involved as a stakeholder because this is a health matter, and in many matters of health, we have a working relationship with the National Emergency Management Organization because of their very structure and their configuration and their ability to respond to issues that have that are national in their nature. For instance, NEMO has a communication infrastructure that we could tap into.
But are you treating this as a national emergency? Do you think at this time that you're not even taking baby steps, you're crawling because you're saying you will react according to as you go along?
Well, we're treating it as a pandemic, and we're treating it as a public health emergency of international concern.
A lot of persons are of the opinion that the ministry is handling this in a reactive manner rather than proactively in certain areas? For example, when it comes to, border control or cruise ships, etc. What's your take on that? That you guys aren't being proactive enough, you're being a bit too reactive?
Well, I think long before we actually had a case of coronavirus, we had countries which were on a quarantine list, and that is an attempt to enhance the surveillance at our ports of entry. So we had these countries on a quarantine list. That was being done. Before we had a case of coronavirus, we had protocols for persons being in quarantine. You would remember that there was a time when, even of Vincentian National, this might seem long ago now, in February, around the 3rd of February, was placed under quarantine. We had several persons in quarantine in different parts of the country. So this was something which was already in place long in advance of a case showing up. We at the ministry have said publicly, and by our actions have also reiterated, that we are approaching this thing from very early on as if it were already here. So before we had this first case of the virus of COVID-19, we were already putting things in place as far as an isolation center is concerned, and we would have had a particular isolation center ready if we did not suffer a particular setback. We have been proactive in this. Before this case and long in advance of this case, we were making arrangements as far as our country testing capacity is concerned. We were strengthening the health system.
Minister, respectfully, Minister, I don't think that I don't get the impression from speaking to you this morning that this matter is being treated. Jamaica, for example, this week went from, in a matter of days, 2 cases to now 8. If we, for example, went from 1 to 5 after this weekend, can you handle this? What's the situation?
Well,
are you just going to, as you said, make decisions as you go along?
No, I didn't say that we're going to make decisions as we go along. I mean, we'd obviously have to take new information into consideration in our response. But I'm saying that we have been working hard to see how best we could prevent and mitigate the spread of coronavirus throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And we want, the ministry itself is doing its work, and we want to impress upon the public that you could do work as well in your own private and personal sphere to prevent the spread of this virus. And I think that is something that we overlook. I mean, we might look for a response from the ministry, we might look for a response from government, and that is important, and that is happening. But we could take things into our own hands as well.
And I agree with you, but the government has a responsibility to protect, secure, and take care of our health, among other things.
And the government is carrying out that responsibility. And if it comes to a situation where we need to consider other actions, then we will consider other actions. You will react in certain ways. You would react differently if you have a case of coronavirus and it proves to be an isolated case, and we do not have any further cases coming on the horizon, than if you were China, for instance, dealing basically with a massive outbreak of coronavirus. And I think you would accept that.
All cases start with 1, Minister.
And yes,
like us in St. Vincent, 1.
And what I should tell you as well, in terms of work that we're doing, we're working with several entities on this, by the way. So this is not a standalone effort from the Ministry of Health. And just yesterday, there was a handover at the Ministry of a specialized vehicle from the Republic of China on Taiwan that really is going to be used as far as our response to non-communicable diseases and whatnot are concerned. But we took the opportunity to talk on, and I had written to him before, to the Taiwanese ambassador about what Taiwan is doing. And the experience and expertise that Taiwan has at its disposal is going to be placed at our disposal right now, because you have a remarkable situation where in Taiwan, which is located a mere 81 miles from mainland China, you have 80,000 plus cases in mainland China, and you have 49 cases in Taiwan.
But however, Minister, I have a friend who's got a daughter in Taiwan, and she made a posting on Instagram yesterday. I saw it, and she said that in Taiwan, everywhere she go, every 10 footsteps, she's stopped, her temperature taken, she's other checks and stamped. Right. Everywhere, literally everywhere you go. We're not nowhere near of that here.
So, and we don't need to be near that here as well, because Taiwan, as I said, is 81 miles away from mainland China, and we're talking about coronavirus, and we're putting things in perspective as well, and we look at the number of cases that have been recorded and registered throughout the world. world. We've seen almost 90,000 cases right now. But sometimes we don't look at the other side of the equation. You have 90,000 cases, but you have almost 60,000 persons who have already recovered from it. You know, so this thing must really be taken in its full perspective. And other persons who are recovering.
Are you saying we're blowing it out of proportion?
I'm not saying that we're blowing it out of proportion. I'm saying that we need to assess the risk and have a perspective on it, which is informed by the science. And that's simply what the Ministry of Health is doing. That's simply what the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is doing and will continue to do.
I'd like to go back to the case that we have in St. Vincent right now. Obviously, this person came into St. Vincent on the 7th.
Yes.
And reported to the ministry on the 10th. Now, during this period of time, this person would have, I am assuming, you can definitely correct me if I'm wrong, that they would have gone about their regular business or...
What I could tell you is that the ministry, the person had basically gone into self-quarantine, and this is a responsible person. I think that we should commend the person for the way in which they approach the situation, because our advice is that if you have traveled to particular destinations and see certain symptoms, that you should call and check in with the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment. And that is exactly what happened in this case. So we're dealing with somebody very responsible. And I think that if more persons would approach it like that, that we would be able to control this thing.
And I commend her for saying to the ministry that this is what's happening. But did she was in public?
And the ministry has commenced contact tracing, or contact tracking. So we basically are identifying all the persons who would have been in contact with this individual to see if there's a health risk in respect of those persons and if they are exhibiting symptoms. And I should also make the further point that during the period when she was traveling, she was asymptomatic. There were no symptoms that had developed. And when you do not exhibit symptoms, you are not in a contagious phase of the disease. So the risk of it being spread at that time is very little.
So her symptoms started on the day of the 10th.
On the 10th.
And you're saying that this disease is not one that can be transmitted unless you're displaying symptoms.
There's very low chance of it being transmitted unless you're displaying symptoms.
But it's possible.
Very little chance.
But possible.
In our final moments, I think we should bring in Jerry now.
Yes.
Is he calling? I'm not seeing him calling. Minister, in the meantime, is there anything else that you want to bring out while we wrap it up and get Jerry in? I think he's called. I think we have him on the line now. Jerry, good morning.
Very pleasant good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, Daniel. Good morning, Mr. Minister.
Morning, Brother G.
Sorry for the delay, Jerry. So you're inside, you're hearing the minister. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, a couple of things. I don't think that the minister has done himself any favors yet on a couple of issues. One, the question of the ship is not clear enough in terms of how that's handled. It's just not clear. He has not come across as being very forthright in the way it's the answers that are given. Yes, the ships have had problems with their own novel virus, so they have their own system. But the reality that has been is that people, countries have taken their own stand on the situation, not based on what the ships themselves do, but based on the country assessing the risk with population. And sometimes the risk is not necessarily an infection. The risk has to also do with the public view of how this might affect them. So I don't think Minister has done a great job. And Minister, that analogy with the gun, don't go there. You should, I think, if you plan to use that somewhere, take it out of your...
Let's allow him to respond to that one, Jerry, before you move forward. Go ahead, Minister.
And I'm not sure if on the latter point, I'm not sure if I share your judgment on it, but we could always have different judgments. And I could refer you to the literature, and then you might be persuaded that it is very applicable. But as far as the ships are concerned, there are other countries in the Caribbean who continue to have open borders for travel, open borders for the arrival of cruise ships. The government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines has assessed the situation for our circumstances and has decided that at this time it is not necessary for us to place an outright ban on cruise ships coming to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, just like we have decided that it is not necessary for us to place an outright ban on flights coming to St. Vincent and the Grenadines from certain destinations. We're not placing an outright ban on flights coming to St. Vincent from the United States of America and places like New York, where many Vincentians live, because we do not think at this time it is required. If that should should ever change, then the government will make a different decision and communicate that decision with the public. And similarly, we go along with the protocols as far as ships and the arrival of cruise ships are concerned. And our protocols are informed by the World Health Organization and its regional entity, the Pan American Health Organization. And none of these entities have been suggested an outright ban on cruise ships.
So now, Mr. Minister, the cruise industry itself has said they're putting off all cruises. The industry itself has made that stand. So that has nothing to do with WHO, WHO, nobody.
Well,
hold on. I listen to you, Mr. Minister.
Yeah, we're listening to each other, but that doesn't mean the engagement can be dynamic.
No, but I think if we're going to make sense to the listeners, we need to keep it civil. I don't mind the dynamism, okay? I have a problem with that. But here's one. So the cruise industry itself has said they're going to ban cruises until, I can't remember, June or something like that. The United States of America has said to its citizens, stay away from cruises. Do we need anything clearer than that, Mr. Minister?
The United States, based on what I've seen, I don't know if you've seen a different decision or a different variant of the decision from the United States of America, but the United States has advised persons in particular demographic groups to avoid cruises.
I don't think it has anything
to do with I have seen information. I have seen information and official information about to that effect.
Mr. Minister, when it comes to these issues, sir, I'm not talking off the top of my head. And I follow this issue closely and deliberately every single release every single day. And I'm saying to you that they told Americans avoid cruises. It's based on that the cruise industry itself yesterday said, that's it. We are banning cruises. So any cruise ships out on the water will come back to port until this matter has settled. Now, did we have to get there, especially knowing our situation and the fragility of our situation and the vulnerability of the situation, that we have to wait until they say that? We must have known. In fact, St. Vincent and the Grenadines was the first destination that had a scare with a cruise ship. Remember that? The first destination before all the other cruise issues happened. And I just don't think that we have been proactive enough in treating with this. And people are being concerned. In Martinique, when they had this first situation and the second ship came to Martinique, you know what the ship met? The ship met protesters, but French people like to protest. They met protesters the morning at 6 o'clock when they were docking. They couldn't dock. They didn't allow them to dock. Do we have to get there? We don't. I believe that we need to have the people who is running our country and looking after our interests to take the best decisions on all we have.
And that's what we seek to do all the time.
But as I say, on the question of arrival at the airport, I raised this matter, I'm sure it was about 4 weeks ago, when, as I said then, that 2 or 3 passengers who had returned from South Korea, complained that they had not been checked. They just walked through. And I brought it here, and people abused me for saying it. But here we are.
Was that before or after South Korea was added to the quarantine list?
No, it was before, but the point is that they were testing. It was not a question of quarantining, It was a question of sensitization and awareness.
But it was before South Korea was added to the quarantine list. South Korea has subsequently been added to the quarantine list. And that piece of information you did not provide.
No, listen to me. I provide the information because it was clear from everybody else that they were testing people coming from South Korea before they were added to the list. They didn't just wake up one morning and add them to the list. They had been looking at the trend, and we said, why? The people said to themselves, because they said every other airport we came through, we were checked. But when we came to St. Vincent, we walked straight through. This is the passengers themselves who said this, not me.
I know you're talking about what the passengers said, and I know exactly what you're talking about. But the point I am making is that it happened a long time ago, before South Korea was added to the quarantine list.
But that doesn't say we have to wait.
It happened a long time ago before South Korea was added to the quarantine list.
This happened about 4 weeks ago. I'm saying to you that the passengers themselves said they found it amazing because having come from South Korea, which at the time was ramping up, they expected to be tested and they weren't. Passengers themselves said that, not me.
South Korea has subsequently been added to the quarantine list and it has been added to the quarantine list a long time ago. And not,
I don't get your point though, Mr. Minister. What is the point you're making?
The point I am making is that South Korea was not on a quarantine list before. If somebody comes from South Korea now, they will be in quarantine.
But we talk about quarantine, Mr. Minister. Let's just be sensible about this. I'm saying that when the disease was ramping up and South Korea started to become a suspect, every country and I'm telling you about the experience of the travelers, every country through which they had passed tested them. The only place they were not checked in terms of temperature and stuff is in Vincent. That's the point, sir. Mm-hmm. Let's not get into this business that eventually they will be. They were added to the quarantine list. Right. We're not talking about they. We can't wait until they're added to the quarantine list before we take, with the information that we have, that we take preventative action for ourselves.
Well.
So that is it. But I have been to the airport since then.
Are you saying that, because you're making the point that these persons were checked in other ports when they were traveling from South Korea, and they were not checked in St. Vincent and the Grenadines?
Absolutely.
And I am saying that the government did not think it appropriate or necessary for South Korea to be on the quarantine list at the time of their return. South Korea...
It's not a question of quarantine, sir. Let's not play with one. It was not a question of quarantine. It was a question of checks. The world had not even gotten to quarantine at that point in time. The world was still sitting at the point where we needed to check.
That's not true, because we were quarantining persons who come here from mainland China at that point.
But that was probably the only country, sir.
Yeah, but we had gotten to quarantine.
Yeah, but that may have been the only country because China was the obvious place.
Yeah, but we had gotten to quarantine.
Anyhow, I don't think we get it anyway, but I think I've made my point on that. Yeah. The other issue, as far as I'm concerned, is the question of, I hear you just saying that you asked the guys if they could get the equipment in sooner. That's really how business gets done. Really? And the suggestion that you're making that the government can do something to control prices and stuff, I don't think we should give people those comforts, because it's not possible. There's no legal way in which the government can regulate the prices in the country. None.
I'm not sure that is true.
It is true because you're a member of the World Trade Organization and it's not allowed.
I'm not sure that is true.
Well, perhaps you need to check it. Mm-hmm. But it's not allowed. We can find ways that we can influence people to, oh gosh, yes. But there is no legislative measure that we can take to do it, as far as I know. Well, and if somebody else has something outside of that, tell me. But are you, sir, happy with the amount of information that has been coming, the frequency, obviously not the accuracy perhaps, but the timeliness of the information?
Well, we try to be timely and accurate in all information presented to the public, and I'd like to inform that frequency. Timely, which is related to frequent, and the frequency, we try to be frequent, timely, and accurate, if you prefer, with the information that is presented to the public. And I should say that we're hoping to actually have meetings in all the communities of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, in all schools in the country, and in other various groups, to present as much information as possible on COVID-19, and to continue with that until necessary, essentially.
How do you feel, Mr. Minister, that when this country could have had an isolation unit in place, in fully operational, that we are back on the back foot simply because of the weakness and inactivity of the government? How do you feel about that, sir?
That is an inaccurate characterization.
Tell me what's inaccurate about it.
Well, I'm not sure that I am open to having that kind of interaction with you on radio this morning.
Let me take it straight up, right? Because I know. Evesham was determined to be the place because there was some grumbling in the society. Yes. We backed off from it.
Right.
And what it has left.
And are you suggesting that we should have gone forward with it?
Definitely.
Okay. Well, you have no regard for the concerns of the community there, then?
I beg your pardon, sir?
You have no regard for the concerns expressed by the residents in that community?
Listen to me. I watched in Jamaica, long before we wanted, I watched it. I watched the public awareness session when they chose the St. Joseph Hospital in Jamaica. A Sunday evening, the people turned out in their numbers objecting The chief medical officer, the medical officer of health, and people from the environment went and they sat down with the people. They let the people talk and they said, listen to me, we hear you, but here's what. This is where we have determined to be the best place we need to put this. We will put it there, but we'll assure you that we will ensure that the society is not affected by it. The isolation center is at the St. Joseph Hospital in Jamaica. Jamaicans just block road and things. We don't have that here. I call it a weakness of the government to have simply given in and have left us exposed now. Because if they had taken the stance then, right? If you're so good and you're so powerful, why can't you convince the people in the community that we can do this? And in fact, if we put this here, we'd look out more for you. You'll be in a better position because we'd look out for your interest better. But we just simply backed away from it. And the whole country at this point in time is left exposed because we do not have an isolation unit. You're now talking about spending $2 or $3 million. That's what you said, right? To renovate this facility? As a facility? That's what you said?
Well, first of all, you are characterizing this as a weakness, and I'm characterizing it as a sensitivity of the government to the public concerns in the area. And I would also venture to say that as a result of that, we may have found something which is better suited to the purpose than the Evesham facility would have been.
You mean the facility in Argyle?
Yes, sir.
And you really think that is better suited?
Well,
a house that you have to convert?
I've already expressed my view to it. We're building an isolation center there.
Okay, all right, cool. Okay, I get you. But here's what somebody called while you were on radio and couldn't understand. Is the distinction between $3 million and $100,000 for supplies and equipment. The person was wondering what is more important. They called me since you guys are in the area. To ask me that question.
I don't understand the question.
I don't understand it, Jerry.
Okay, the question is, you're saying it's probably going to take $3 million to renovate the place that you found.
No, right? I didn't see that.
What did you say, sorry?
So allocated $3 million to fight.
I say that $3 million would be spent on equipment and supplies as a part of the general COVID-19 response.
So inclusive of that is the $100,000.
That includes the $100,000 for laboratory equipment.
Okay, well, that is probably...
And many other things.
No, well, okay, good. Well, because that's the question the person was asking, which seemed to be more important. Well, I get it now then.
Okay.
But outside of that, I think at the end of the day, we have to do our best in terms of communicating and in terms of managing our border. Yeah. What about the Grenadines, sir?
When you say what about the Grenadines, I'm not sure what
That's the question. What about the Grenadines with relation to this problem?
Well, we are working throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I could mention a specific thing which would take place in the Grenadines, and a part of what we're doing is what we'll be doing is setting up isolation units in the Grenadines, in Union Island and Canawan to be particular. And
tell us more about them, sir.
Pardon me?
Tell us more about that.
Well, you'd hear more about the specifics, but I'm just announcing here now that we're going to set up isolation chambers in Union Island and Canawan, and we're going to take certain other steps related to mass activities which would be taking place in the Grenadines as well.
Are you referring to the units put out in Canawan yesterday by the company?
No, I'm not referring to that.
So there are others other than that then?
I'm talking about other things, yes.
Okay, we'll be watching to see what those other things are.
And we'll keep you informed.
We are out of time. We should be finished at 9. We should have been finished at 9. Jerry?
Yes, okay, fine. I just, as I say, final question, sir. Mm-hmm. Why haven't we brought Taiwan into this picture?
Well, he did say that.
We brought Taiwan.
Yeah, he did say that he wrote it to the ambassador.
When? This has been going on for weeks now. Taiwan would respond to this immediately. When?
Yeah,
I don't think these kind of answers, you can't throw me off there. If Taiwan had been asked into the situation weeks ago, they'd have been in already up front. When did you ask Taiwan?
We have had ongoing discussions with Taiwan about specific matters of assistance, and they have in fact provided specific types of assistance already.
Thank you, Mr. Minister.
Sorry?
Thank you, Mr. Minister.
Okay.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you very much. Catch you on Monday morning. Yes, that's the Jerry George segment. Normally comes at 8:30, but we put it off because of you. Minister, finally in wrapping up, I just want to ask a question with regard to the cruise ship industry, if you don't mind. My research has found that St. Lucia have denied 18,000 passengers, barred 18,000 passengers so far from going in. Grenada has also barred, made some stops as well. St. Vincent, according to the information which you give this morning, will continue to have cruise ships coming. Is it that we concerned about the economic revenues that will come from the industry, or what is it?
Well, actually, St. Vincent has denied requests by cruise ships to come to this country and to dock at our ports already.
Since we've had all the
coronavirus and health-related considerations tied to coronavirus. So it's not as if we accepting indiscriminately everything that wants to come in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We are guided by the screening which takes place on the ships and our assessment of the results based on the protocols which are in place.
So all of the ships that were scheduled to call in St. Vincent and the Grenadines throughout this season, they will continue to come. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that some ships have not been allowed to come to St. Vincent and the Grenadines as a result of health-related considerations, and those that come and those that would likely continue to come will be ships that have been given healthcare clearance by public health officials in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
So once again, we may see a ship in Port Kingston tomorrow on the weekend.
You may see a ship in Port Kingston because as we speak here right now, the government has not issued a carte blanche ban on cruise ships arriving in St. Vincent. Just like we have not given a ban on flights coming to St. Vincent and the Grenadines from the United States of America.
Right, okay. Is there anything else you want to add while we wrap up this morning? I don't want to give you the opportunity to do so.
Well, I just want to say that the public could expect more information on an ongoing basis from the Ministry of Health in respect of coronavirus. I think that we have the capacity to manage this together. We know that the situation is developing and evolving. Persons have legitimate concerns, and the ministry will try always to respond to those concerns. We will do what is required from the standpoint of the ministry and the government to continue to build capacity and to continue to respond to this changing epidemic. And in doing that, we're going to tap into various sources. We are likely to welcome a delegation from the Pan American Health Organization in country next week, Monday. We're going to work with them on some elements of our response. We have already discussed some of the specific considerations. There are many persons out there who have put up their hands and said that we are available to help if you should need that help, and we're tapping into them. I know that there have been some issues raised here, and I think that there would be other opportunities to respond to some of the specific questions. So don't think that this interview is really the end of our engagement with Boom or the end of our engagement with the public. We will try our best to stay on top of things.
And I want to remind you, you assured us that you will come back with certain information with regards to the isolation center,
yes, sir,
as to dates and timelines.
As soon as we have that information, you'll be the first person to know. I
appreciate that, Minister. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. That's Minister of Health, the Honorable Luke Brown, spending some time with us this morning. He went over just about 10 minutes or so, or 20 minutes.
You went over.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Trying
My
to
apologies.
blame.
Yeah, of course, I got to blame him.
You.
So, of course, who am I going to blame? You or Shady? I got to blame him. He's a guest.
He told me that the program ends today at 9 o'clock.
Yes, it does, actually. Hey, listen, it's been an amazing week. We'll be back on Monday morning to do it all over again, to start it all over again. Be safe this weekend, right?
Be safe, be clean.
Yeah, we continue to do what the minister have said. Wash hands. How you put wash hands as often as possible?
Wash your hands as often as possible, and basically keep your hands away from your face, in particular your eyes, your nose, and your mouth.
And remember, you are responsible for your own health security.
Yeah.
If you want to make a decision to avoid mass gatherings, you do so.
Precisely.
Yeah? Thank you very much.
Until Monday.
Shady! DJ Shady. Until Monday morning. We're going to catch you. Boom Chat Friday.
106.9 Boom.